Also, I am recording this session currently. Great, welcome to Virtual Meetings for Nonprofits. We kind of came up with the idea of offering this webinar to nonprofit organizations, especially during this time of COVID-19 and coronavirus, with the hopes of giving you all some possible technology solutions for conducting your meetings, whether they be internal meetings or also meetings that you all want to broadcast, I guess you could say, to your constituents and your members. So that's kind of like the purpose of this, is to give you all some solutions during this time of social distancing. As I said before, we have everyone muted. We did a webinar earlier this week and we got Zoom bombed, which is kind of like this phenomenon that's really quite horrible, where people will crash your Zoom session and start shouting profanities and take over the screen share, and just really malicious, awful thing. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And so really what I'd like to do is actually spend the first part of this call just kind of talking about that. But to prevent that from happening, we are kind of going through the measures of having everyone muted when they join the call, and then I have to actually unmute you if you want to speak or ask a question. So if you do want to speak and ask a question, if you can open up your chat, and you can kind of see it on my screen here. You can open up your chat and just type in like question mark or question marks, whatever, something like that, and that'll kind of indicate to me that you would like me to unmute your phone or your computer microphone so you can chime in with your question or comment. To get to the chat, now I'm doing a screen share, so your controls are probably on the bottom of your screen, but you should be able to scroll through your screen. If it's not there, if you don't see chat, you may need to go to more and scroll down and click on chat, and that will open up the chat window right there. So that'll allow you to ask questions, and hopefully these measures work and we don't get rudely interrupted or worse. It seems like they're always I'm been reading a lot of blog articles about this happening, a lot of articles, and they're finding like new ways to bomb these Zoom sessions. Now, so to talk more about the Zoom bombing and hopefully how you can prevent it and how it happens in the first place, when we created this Zoom session, we also made it public on our Facebook page. And I think this is how the Zoom bombers are finding these sessions to hijack. And so if you go to our page here, this is some information about the today's event here. And what we did was actually, let's see if it finds, here we go. This is where we actually pasted the Zoom link for you all to find to join this session. If you do this, just know that you are really exposing yourself to potentially being invaded, your Zoom session to being invaded. So be very careful about doing this, posting it in social media or posting it on your website, because people can find it. In fact, if I just do a search on https zoom.us, and this is probably how they're finding us, but you can just type that in, and anyone who has a post recently, see, this is one going on right now. So we could, if they don't have measures to protect, we can jump right in and bomb their sessions. So, and again, it's really horrible when it happens. So again, if you do post the Zoom link, be prepared. You'll need to take measures to hopefully protect your Zoom meeting. One of them that I set up was this option right here. This is the participants window in Zoom. And there's one you can check to mute participants upon entry. So when they enter, they can mute. Now that still means that they could theoretically go into their control up here and unmute themselves just by clicking on the little microphone button. But I've also clicked on the button that says allow participants to unmute themselves. So I'm actually going to uncheck that. I do not want to allow participants to unmute themselves. Okay, so that means I need to come in here and actually unmute the participants. So you also have the ability, if you do get someone who's being rude, like Brandon here, if I want to kick him out, I can click on more and actually and kick him out and remove from the session, and that will drop him out. And there are some other settings that I want to go into in a little bit here. So I just got a message from Davis Media. I can't see what you're doing, just the DOM. Okay, so you don't see okay, this is not part of the screen share. Okay, sorry about that. So I assume that you could see that you could see more than just the Denver Open Media website there. Well, I'm looking at my participants window here, and if you go into your participants window, so in other words, if you click on participants here, you'll see a list of all the participants, and then off to the side there, you'll see a little microphone that's been crossed out, and a little video camera that's been crossed out, and since I am the host, I have the ability to unmute and mute the individual people. So that's what I'm looking at here. Sorry if you can't see that on those controls on your screen, but that's what I am looking at. And again, you can set these defaults here by this drop down on that same participants window. There is one that says more. So if you click on more, if you go down, you can click on those to, one is here to turn on or off, mute participants upon entry, and there's also another one here that says allow participants to unmute themselves. And I wanted to also show you how to set these up by going into the settings, because you also have the ability to do that as well. Again, on the participants screen as well, at the bottom, you have the ability to unmute and mute all people simultaneously as well. So you can have that control there. Let me go into the Zoom settings because these are also really important. Now you have, so this is our Zoom account here, and we have, and I want to go through the whole process here of scheduling a meeting in Zoom and to show you some of the settings that you have within individual meetings. But in addition to that, you have your kind of global settings for your entire account. So I assume you can see this, should be able to see this because this is on a web browser here. So I'm going to click on settings here. And so these are the different areas of the settings. It's really just this long list of things here that you can change. So some of the ways that, let me bring up my curriculum here. So some of the ways that people are Zoom bombing is by screen sharing. So you can go in here and turn off the ability for your participants to actually do screen sharing. So it's right here. So you can set it up to where only the host can screen share or all participants can screen share. So that's one global setting that you can do. Another one is annotations and whiteboard, and you'll notice that I turned those off as well. The annotations and whiteboard, they allow you to do like a virtual whiteboard, right, to draw and write things out. And apparently Zoom bombers have allowed. Hold on a second, I need to mute. Great. Sorry, Tony and Brandon, you are now unmuted.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
So the annotations and the whiteboards allow you to draw, and so some of these Zoom bombers have just gone in and just drawn bad words or whatever on the screen. So that's another thing that you can turn off to hopefully control that. There is a feature that you can set up for each meeting, and that's called the waiting room. And so what the waiting room does is when your participants join the meeting, they can, they'll go into the waiting room, and then you have to go through individually on each person and actually admit each person into the meeting. So that's another way to control it. It's called the waiting room feature, and I'll show you how to set that up for each meeting here in a little bit.
And John, because they couldn't see it, will you go back and show them where they can allow participants to unmute themselves versus you controlling that?
That's the only way for participants to unmute themselves that I know of is, well, they might be able to do it. And again, I don't know if you can see it, but it might be in the participants list, but also the controls. So if you hover over the bottom of your screen, you should see the controls pop up. And
yeah, but I meant when you were explaining that you could turn that setting on and off as host, we weren't able to see your screen at that time. Can you show where that was again?
That's in the participants
where
window. That's in the participants window, and I don't think you all can see that on my screen.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. It seems like I guess we couldn't.
Yeah. So if you click on this participants, apparently it's not showing up on your screen, but there's a little pop up here on the top right hand part of the screen that lists all the participants and all their names, and you can unmute and mute them there.
Did you see the option to, if you click settings in your gear icon and then under general with content sharing, share Zoom windows and desktop sharing, then that will show us what you're seeing?
Settings.
I think it's actually in your Zoom window. In the Zoom application, not on your profile. The stuff that we can't see, if you click on the gear icon, and then under general, check share Zoom windows and desktop sharing.
I'm sorry, I don't have a gear icon on mine.
Okay, well, sorry, we'll just live with that, yeah.
Great. Okay, so let's see. You can set those. Let me go through the curriculum real quick. File transfer, that's something else that you may want to disable. What file transfer allows you to do is to share through the chat window of files, Word documents, PowerPoint, whatever, PDFs with the other participants. And so they could theoretically share files that could be harmful to your computer. So that's another feature that you may want to disable. And so I'll find that real quick. Sure. So right here, again, in the settings, you can turn that off to protect yourself And then also to, there's a setting here to disallow participants to rejoin the meeting. And that allows, that will prevent them. So if you do kick them out, that will prevent them from rejoining the meeting. So those are some of the settings that you may want to take a look at to protect yourself. Now, this curriculum, by the way, it is available if you go to denveropenmedia.org and you click on classes, and I'll share this link here in a second. And it's on this page at the very bottom. There is a link here to view and to download the curriculum right here. I'm also going to add the link once we're done here to the video so you can see that presentation. I'm going to share this link with you right now so all of you have that. Oh, that just went to Tony. Send that to everyone. Great. And again, if you have any questions, if you can just type in question mark in the chat, and I hopefully will be able to see that and be able to unmute you. Great. A few more things for, let's
John,
go through.
did you see the question from Bonita Bach?
If you turn off file share, can you allow as host one person to share? Oh, this is Benita's question. If you turn off the file share, can you allow as host one person to share files? Now, I think it's global. It's everyone, so no one is able to share files. In fact, even myself as a host, I'm not able to share files. So it really just, it totally locks it down. Everyone is locked out and unable to share files. So unfortunately, they don't have it to where it's specific to those privileges to specific people. At least that's my understanding of it. Good question. Cool. So some other ways to protect yourself. Let's go through the process of scheduling a meeting. So I just want to show you all what this looks like if you haven't done this before. I'm going to set up, my test meeting or whatever, and you can put in the date and time of when this is supposed to appear or when it's supposed to start. And let's go through some of these options. So recurring, this is if you are doing the same meeting multiple times. Just be aware that if you are setting up a recurring meeting, it's going to be using this personal ID right here. And so especially if you make this meeting, the link to the meeting publicly available through social media or up on your website, the Zoom bombers are going to know the same ID and are going to be able to theoretically come in to this meeting anytime that it happens, or anytime it happens, anytime that your meetings are in session. So I recommend instead that you generate a unique meeting ID for each meeting. That's my recommendation. This is where you can set up a passcode, okay? And like I said, we made the decision to have this link be open to all, and so we did not require a passcode, but really this is the best way to protect your meeting. So if you are only having certain participants coming in, we recommend that you go ahead and just set it up with a passcode, and so they will need that to enter, and that will prevent any unwanted participants from coming in. So kind of like the dual layer protection is a unique meeting ID through this check mark or radio button, and through this checkbox create a passcode for that meeting. It's a 6-digit code. Video for the host, both on and you have the option to go on and off. For an open meeting like this, I like what I did for you all. I switched this to off, and so that way there's not a lot of random screens on the screen, a lot of thumbnails, and where people can do lewd things on their video screens. If they're, again, uninvited people. So for this meeting, this is what I did for this one. I turned off the video sharing part for participants. For audio, you have the option to do telephone or computer audio or both. As you can see, we have some people dialing in. So I like to use both for that. Yeah, so it allows people to join by calling in. And then some of these meeting options we can go through. So enable join before host. I recommend not having that checked. So what that means is your host needs to start the meeting before people can join. So that way people aren't using your meeting ID that you set up for their own private meetings or for their own purposes. So I recommend, again, unchecking that. Mute participants, that's what I did with this meeting. Upon entry, this is the waiting room feature that I mentioned earlier. So again, this kind of creates a waiting room where you need to go through and individually admit the people who are supposed to be there. Only authenticated users can join. What that means is they need a Zoom account. So they need to create a Zoom account to be able to join your meeting. So that's another restriction that you can apply. And then finally, record the meeting automatically. And you all saw me start the meeting manually through this interface right here. But if you are like me and you tend to forget those things, you can set it to record automatically, and you can either record on your local computer or in the cloud. All right, so they have the ability to record using their servers as well. And depending on what level of a Zoom account, which I'll go over in a little bit, there's different amounts of cloud storage that they have available. But once you figure out what you're going to do there, you can go ahead and click the save button, and that creates the meeting. You'll notice this is the join URL that you can, again, be careful though, but this is the URL that you can share via email. If you really want to, you can share it on Facebook or on your website. That's the URL right there. If you click on this copy the invitation link, these are all the dial-in numbers that you have available as well. And again, there is the Zoom URL that you can share. And if at any time you want to go and change these settings that you have, you can go into the edit meeting feature, and it just opens up that same window and allows you to change those. Apparently, all right.
Great, and yeah, that URL before the question mark, if you post that, people can go to the chat but can't get in without the password. If you post it with the content that was after that question mark, it includes the password in the URL.
Great, thanks.
That makes sense.
So we had a question. Let's see. Sorry, I'm looking at some of these questions. Oh, Dwayne Smith, does linking Google Docs work to share? So sharing documents through Google Docs in the chat window. Good question. Let's try it. Now, I haven't changed the permissions of this document, but yes, it does appear to work that way. So sharing a URL does appear to work. Great. Dana says files can always be shared after the session, which is often a great way to follow up activities and seems better and safer to me. I agree. Sounds like a good way of doing it. Dana again says a good way to drive folks back to your website too, as long as you can type in the chat and share links. Great. And she shared a Google Doc and said, I promise it's nothing nasty. Great. Good. So that answers the question about Google Docs. That certainly works. Can you keep participants from turning on and off their cameras like you can do with their audio? Apparently not. In my drop down in the participants window, there again is this button here. As a host, I have this ability and it says more, and then down below there's allow participants to unmute themselves, but I do not see anything on here that allows participants to turn on or off their cameras. One thing, there is also the ability to lock the meeting. So the idea of, and that again is in the same place in the participants window under the more drop down. If you lock the meeting, that basically means no one else can join. So if you know you're supposed to have these 5 or 6 people in your meeting and you don't want anyone else to come in, you can lock it down there. Great. And Tony, you're unmuted, but you don't want to mute yourself again. Otherwise, I'll just have to keep unmuting you.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, I got it set up to where if you mute yourself, you have to be unmuted again. So, all right, great.
And the last question about phone numbers. I think that is only available at even the lowest paid level, but I do think you have to pay. It's the $15 per month.
Great. Let's talk about those plans and pricings. So the 2 main ones here to look at, I think, are the free ones that Leanna was talking about, as well as the pro level, the $14.99. Now the free one has some pretty serious restrictions. You only have 40, each group meeting can only be 40 minutes in length. So that's not a lot. So if you have meetings that typically go an hour, it's not going to work, probably not going to work for you. And it looks like they don't, I think that's right. I think they allow the video conferencing, but not the dial-in feature. So that you do need to pay the $14.99 per month to get those features. And that also allows the cloud recording that I mentioned earlier. So when you're recording it, you can record it to the cloud rather than down to your computer. Your meeting duration is 24 hours. So hopefully you don't have meetings that go over 24 hours. It includes 100 total participants. So right now we have almost 40 participants. So you have a lot of participants that can join and participate as well. I think I covered all I wanted to cover about the plans and the security concerns with using Zoom. But what I want to talk about now is kind of like this feature that they also have with Zoom that is really, really cool, and that's the connectivity with YouTube. Now, though, to be able to do this, you're going to have to go into to get an add-in plan. So you'll need to get this additional $40 per month, add video webinars add-on for your plan. So the $14.99 plus this $40 per month. But what this allows you to do is to broadcast your virtual meeting on Zoom to YouTube. And so I'm just going to show you how this works here. I'm going to start a YouTube live session. Oh, and by the way, it works on Facebook as well. All right. So you can share this. So say like you have an annual meeting with your members, right? And your members may not necessarily participate in the Zoom meeting. So you could be conducting your regular Zoom meeting, but be broadcasting it to all of your members theoretically around the world, so all of them can tune in to the meeting that you all are conducting.
And we should also mention that this is a great way to avoid the Zoom bombing because you can have a select number of people participating in two-directional communication in your Zoom meeting, but infinite people who can only watch through YouTube. And you can publicly post the YouTube link, which lets anybody watch it, but only privately share the Zoom link, which limits the participants. So this is also a really good option for schools and teachers and people if they don't need the two-directional participation with everybody.
Yeah, great, thanks. So yes, you can control your participants in the Zoom meeting via the passcode, which I showed you all just a moment ago, and then again broadcast this out to YouTube so so everyone's able to tune in and see. So just to show you how easy it is to do this. So we're in the Zoom meeting here. I'm just going to go down here and click on live on YouTube and select my account. If you haven't already done this before, it'll ask you to sign in with your YouTube channel credentials. So this is going to be the name of my YouTube video that's going to create, the YouTube event and the YouTube video. And I can set the privacy settings right here. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it public for now and hit go live. And in about 20 or 30 seconds here, it's going to start streaming the Zoom session on YouTube. The cool thing about this also, all right, there it goes. I'm gonna, and in about 20 or 30 seconds, y'all hear that echo. So there's like a 20, 30 second delay there that comes through. So I'm gonna mute this, but it goes to the YouTube screen. So this is what my YouTube viewers are seeing. I can share this. So I can copy this share link here and put it on Facebook or on the website. So if you want to tune in to this, the annual meeting or whatever, click on the Facebook link here and they'll be able to watch. This will be saved as an archive file. So once this Zoom session ends, they'll be able to click on the same share link and go back and watch the video. So it's just really easy and cool way to save or to broadcast your virtual meeting to other participants, or not participants, to viewers. Let's see. Cool, great. We have a question from Dwayne here. Is there a way to separate the video feed recording from desktop content like Toastmasters, speech video, along with the PowerPoint or desktop content? So basically, I mean, the way I have it set up now, I'm doing a screen share. So everything that I'm showing here is going to stream to YouTube. So anything, if I go to a document, if I go to a PowerPoint presentation, it's all going to show up on there. If I wanted to show a video, you know, I could pull up a video on my computer. Say I wanted to show, you know, I don't know, I have my computer at home. Do you all want to see skiing or something like that? right? I can click on the skiing video and show that, right? You know, any kind of content that you are showing, and it should share both the video and the audio of that. If you wanted to show YouTube videos, right, you can go in here and find a YouTube video to show. So anything like that you can share. So yeah, got a lot of power, a lot of ability there too. You know, if you want to put up just kind of like a slate kind of thing, that's kind of what I was doing earlier. So I just showed the web page here, so they know that when they're watching that it's about to begin or something like that. So hopefully that helps. Cool. So that's how you can stream your Zoom session to YouTube. Yeah, it is an additional cost here. So again, you need the $14.99 plus the add-on to be able to do this, to be able to broadcast live. And I don't know the way I like to think about it. I think it's a particularly powerful technology. I mean, it used to be not long ago, in the early 2000s, I was working for a nonprofit, and we were trying to broadcast a special meeting, and we had to hire a satellite truck, and it cost tens of thousands of dollars to do that. So this technology is quite affordable in comparison to what was available. What was available, I mean, the only choices you had a few decades ago. So it is pretty amazing to me to see. Now, these video webinars here, this is just if you want to broadcast live, right? So if you have the basic plan, you can always just the pro plan, you can always share the recording of your session later on by uploading it to YouTube, right? So if you're not too concerned about being able to show live, you could always go into your account here. I'll show you where these recordings are. I'm having to move some things out of the way.
And I'll mention while John's looking for that the $19.99 higher level ones are a little misleading, because the minimum cost for the business account is actually $200 a month, because you have to have at least 10 accounts at $19.99 per month. And it doesn't get you that much extra. It gets you 300 participants per meeting instead of only 100. And it also lets you have like a custom URL. So instead of all the Zoom / a 10-digit number, you can have Zoom / COPA or Zoom / Open Media or something like that. So that's what you get with those higher levels. Sorry, John. And this is where all the recordings are stored.
So these are the recordings that I have stored on the cloud. And again, you have the option of recording on your computer or in the cloud, and this is where you can download. So you download it. You could make edits to it and then post it up on your YouTube page. So you have that ability to, if you're not too concerned about broadcasting your meeting or whatever it is actually live while you're going. So I am going to go ahead and stop the YouTube sharing. So where's that? Stop live stream. There we go. And that should stop the YouTube event as well. I believe that is everything that I wanted to cover about Zoom. And keep in mind, Zoom is just one solution that you can use for conducting your virtual meetings. You also have there's also another one that's very easy to use, Google Hangouts. And you probably have used this before, but Google Hangouts / Meet, I think they are in the process of rebranding. So Meet, I think is going to be the new name, but Google Hangouts. So I'm just going to walk through real quick how to set up a Google Hangout. And this is something you can do with a free Gmail account. With your Gmail account, you also have Calendar, the ability, well, you have Google Docs, which has been mentioned, but also Calendar. And I think this is the easiest way to set up a a scheduled Google Hangout. Is just use your calendar feature. And so I'm going to set up one for later on, right? Test Hangout. And as soon as I add a guest, like say Brandon, to participate in this meeting with me, it's going to create the Google Hangout link right here. All right, so you'll notice there's also a phone dial-in there. So if Brandon doesn't have a computer, he can always dial in with a phone. And then here is the link. Again, now, Google Hangouts, from what I can tell, does not have a lot of the same security options that Zoom has. So be very, very careful about sharing this Google Hangout link publicly. In fact, you're probably not going to want to do it because really anyone could join. There's no passcode feature that I'm aware of that you can use. You do have the ability to mute participants and to remove them, but they probably can just jump right back in and keep bombing your meeting. So I would only use this when it's not so much a publicly shared link and you have trusted participants that are going to join. Now, unfortunately, just about a year ago, Google had a feature called Google Hangouts on Air. And what this was the ability to broadcast, just like we just demonstrated with Zoom, to broadcast your Hangouts or your virtual meeting on YouTube live. And it was really cool. It was really, really powerful, but for some reason they discontinued that. So now there's no way to have a broadcast of your virtual session, at least not an easy way of doing it. Now, one thing you can try, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this Google Meets here. All right, so, oh, I hung up. Sorry, rejoin. I meant to turn off the camera, not hang up. Okay, so I've got this this meeting going on now, right? And again, they used to have an easy way to just like turn on and start sharing to Hangouts on Air or to YouTube. They don't have that anymore, but you can try to download a third-party encoding software that it basically, and a lot of gamers use this, so it's a way to just kind of broadcast your desktop to YouTube or Facebook. And so this one's called OBS Studio, and again, it's free, and so you can try to set it up where you can broadcast your Google Hangout to YouTube, and you just click on the Start Streaming button, and it'll connect to your, once you've logged into your YouTube account, it'll connect to that. There are some other features that are really nice with this as well. There are, the ability, you can show slides or just images. You can show videos. And then you can also just show your screen. So it's kind of like a little mini video switcher. It's pretty cool. Few more steps though. So if you are using a service other than Zoom, you're like Google Hangouts, you're probably going to need a third-party encoder to be able to send that signal to YouTube. Great. Great, good question. So Dana asked, did you find Google Hangouts to be as stable as Zoom? And Tony replied, Zoom to be better when some participants have slower internet connections. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that. That's great. Good feedback. Good. Anyone else have any questions?
I'd like to jump in here for a moment,
Thanks,
John, if I
Brandon.
may.
Yes, please.
Thank you. You know, as a nonprofit ourselves, we understand the difficulty in reaching our donors and our clients at this time. Like, we're trying to think really hard on ways in which we can sort of innovate and make things like our annual spring fundraisers viable virtually. So I just want to extend my email address. I've just put it in the chat here. I'm the creative director at Open Media Foundation, and what I want to do is figure out a way that nonprofits can come together and leverage some tools to potentially continue to hold their spring fundraising events, produce them remotely using a combination of things like Zoom or even potentially on location or live streaming. We're working with Denver Kids right now to figure out an innovative way of doing that. They want to move forward with their events, and I know that we can. We're, as a new media organization, we have the tools and the knowledge to help orchestrate higher scale production of remote events, you know, beyond just a simple GoTo or Zoom webinar. We're also working with municipalities and governments across the country to explore these options. So again, we have the tools, we have the resources, but I would just encourage any of you, please reach out to me with any ideas or thoughts that you might have around tools that you found to be useful, or ideas that you're exploring, or potentially services that you require to, you know, continue and have our usual spring fundraising event. I see questions here coming in about GoToMeeting and WebEx. I know from personal experience more about Zoom and Hangouts than I do about GoToMeeting or WebEx, but I also know that some of our governments are experimenting with WebEx and have chosen that for a number of reasons. My understanding is that WebEx is a little bit more robust as far as security goes. I don't really know if that's true. That's just sort of the understanding that I've come to. I don't know if John or Tony have any additional insight on that. But again, please, just to wrap up, reach out to me with any questions about how you might be able to make your event still happen remotely, or any ideas that you have about remote fundraising events, or things that you or your board or your constituents or clients are discussing. I want to be a part of that dialogue, and I want to make sure our community has the resources it needs to achieve their fundraising goals.
And John, will you just really quickly show like what Lakewood is doing? I don't know if there are any governments on the call or not, but we also have a software as a service that we offer for governments that that also transcribes these meetings, presents them alongside their agendas, and lets governments continue to have transparent, accessible meetings via Zoom. So Lakewood is one of the governments using this software, and so yeah, John will show you here just a recent city council meeting. This has all their meetings going back for the last 5 years. But if you look at some of the recent ones, they're being done in the way that we're presenting right here. So they're a Zoom call, and then you can also jump to any of those agenda items on the right for discussions on topics that you care about. John, and you can see the agenda down below too. You can share that via social media. So lots of little features. And John, probably the coolest part of this, maybe go back to the previous page and just search there and for captions, like search for Corona or something like that. Sure. And you can see any time that transportation, in this case, was even just spoken in a meeting. So this is some software we built for governments, that if there's any use for any nonprofits, please reach out to Brandon or us as well. And yeah, it makes everything that you've said searchable And you know, we're offering this for free for new government clients during the coronavirus epidemic, and any nonprofits that would want to try it, we'd be down to set you up with an account of this software as well too. It's mainly built for governments, but can be used for nonprofit meetings and other things as well.
Dana had mentioned the live transcription. The captions here and this is particularly, I think, really cool if you're trying to reach people, hard to hear community or whatever. There's YouTube any YouTube video that comes up has, as long as it's not over 4 hours, that's my understanding, has automatic captions on it, and the audio quality needs to be decent. And so the captioning is right there. It also, you have the ability to translate. So all this is just leveraging YouTube. So again, if you're streaming your virtual meetings to YouTube, you have these abilities to reach even more audience. So I want to click on the auto translate here and translate it to Arabic, and I'll translate to that as well. Now these captions here are they're in the process of rolling out live closed captions, but right now it is just on replay on most YouTube channels. I think they only activate it for special people. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Again, it's a lot cheaper than paying for a captioning service. So if you are plugged into YouTube, you have that that ability there. Great.
And John, will you just unmute everyone in case anybody wants to ask any questions or
Sure.
vanities? Just
yeah, it seems like a good time. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone.
Or maybe it just allows them all to unmute themselves. No, great.
Yeah, so participants are now you're able to unmute yourself. So if you go down to your control panel on the bottom, you should be able to unmute. So if anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to chime in now.
Otherwise, thank you guys all for joining. And, you know, we're here to help, like Brandon said, any way that we can help the nonprofit sector, you know, adjust to these changes. So, you know, let us know if you're needing any help with any communications or technology. Yeah, and we'll be happy to help.
All right, someone asked for the link. This is the link here for the Lakewood City Council meeting. They're actually featured in an article by the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition, which is a really cool article talking about these technologies. So so please, yeah, during this time, you know, you all stay safe, maintain your social distance and all that, but keep in mind too that you do have the ability to use this technology and to connect with people in your organization, other organizations. So if you're doing inter-organization work, you have that ability, as well as with your constituents and your members.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And again, don't forget that link on denveropenmedia.org, classes and resources. There is the curriculum right there. I will also post the link to this video too, and that'll be up in a couple hours or so. Thanks, everyone, for joining.